Hey there, internet friends. Trevor Starkey here, welcoming you to episode 2 of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team from That Nerdy Site gets together to talk about our lives and all the nerdy things we love about them. If you enjoy what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast everywhere you can. We are now live on iTunes. If you're feeling extra generous, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. Normally this will be a show where we just kind of get together, talk about what's going on in our lives and some of the nerdy things we're loving, but because this is the beginning of a brand new project for a lot of us, I wanted to use these first couple episodes to introduce the audience to the different members of the team from That Nerdy Site. In episode 1, we featured the non-Austin crew, who they were not going to be able to make it out to Austin for the launch stream. So that featured Cameron Abbott, Chloe Naylor, Ben Bellevue, and myself. And I was able to make the trip out to Austin, so today I am joined with the rest of the team. Everybody who lives in Austin: Logan Wilkinson, Jazz Foster,
Hey.
Frank Bazzani,
What's up, everybody?
and Christian Puente.
I'm here.
Yay! So, because a lot of people heard my stuff last week, I'm going to serve more as just kind of a facilitator and moderator this time. But I wanted to dive in kind of everyone's origin stories. So a mix of how did we all meet, and kind of get in touch with each other, and then kind of what kind of content have people been creating before coming into That Nerdy Site. Then kind of the second section of the show is going to be talking about what do we want to be bringing to the site, what kind of ideas do we have, what are we interested, what are we excited about kind of doing with That Nerdy Site. And then lastly, just to get it in your heads, we're going to do kind of a round table, and you guys have the benefit of now, I've already asked this question to everybody for our bios and stuff, so we already have some ideas on the website. But just kind of what are the things that we are nerdy for? What are some of the things that we're nerdy about? The original crew, I kind of sprung that on them on the show, so it took a little bit of time for them. But yeah, so that's kind of the intent of today's show. So let's kind of dive in. Logan, I want to pass it to you first, I guess, because you're certainly the one I've kind of discussed That Nerdy Site with the most, and I think you and I have had the most kind of concrete conversations about the show. But just kind of give us a little bit of backstory into how you met some of the people here around the table, and what you've been doing in the content creation space.
Yeah. I met... Let's go around the table. I met Frank at... a PAX for sure. PAX East 2018. Maybe actually...
2017?
2017.
PAX East 2017. It would have been, yeah, probably. I met him there with probably the Zyger and like that kind of group.
I think that was probably one of the places you and I first met too.
It was the first place we ever met face to face, yeah. Was PAX East 2017. And so I met Frank there as well. I guess would have met Christian. No, Christian didn't go to that PAX, but I met him a few months later at KFL 3. It would have been. So I met all of you guys there. And then Jazz I met at Irrational Passions Extra Life 2017.
Yeah.
We had known of each other since like a few months earlier over a tweet about Clue, the motion picture film. Which is Jazz
of all time.
Yeah, Jazz favorite movie.
Yeah.
And so that's how I met all of you guys. And then over the ensuing months or longer, obviously, like me and Christian would hang out a lot, talk a lot. Whenever we got to events, me and Frank would as well. Me and Trevor obviously talked just ad nauseum, just in general. And then I eventually moved to Austin, where Frank and Christian already lived, and then obviously moved in with Jazz. And so that's how I did all of that. The next question was... What have I done in the industry? Right, yeah. So I've been writing and talking about video games since, 2010. That checks out roughly, timeline-wise. And it's because of a big, loud guy from Glen Ellen, Illinois, who hosted a podcast called Beyond. And so, yeah, I got on the IGN blogs back in the day, and wrote stuff there.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Yeah, I didn't know they were gone until a few. I think you told me actually that they were gone. I didn't know that before that. But yeah, did stuff there. Wrote a bunch of stuff there for years. Kind of had waves of writing a lot more, waves of not writing as much. Did stuff for IGN Guides one year for E3. Got a nice little shirt and a pin from Jared Petty back when he still worked there, which is very nice. The original Assassin's Creed Unity guide, like post E3 pre-launch, was one that I wrote, and like that game being fucked. And then eventually a boy from Maryland put out a tweet about wanting more editors to come write for a site of his, and I took that tweet, and then he brought me and George Cruz Alvarez and Yusuf Mgeed and another person whose name I genuinely just can't remember, all on to write for Rational Passions. The one guy left after writing like a piece or two, I think. Yusuf left after writing a few pieces in the Art of the Video Game series that he had. That was very, very good. And then me and George obviously stuck around for the next 3.5 years and became senior editors at Irrational Passions, where we did lots of different things: PAXs, Extra Lives, Game of the Years, Kind of Funny Lives and Proms, and just kind of did a bunch of work and content in the industry until I left that 2 months ago, roughly. Checks out.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Sounds about right.
Right around a little after PAX West this year.
A little before PAX West. I think it was like a week before PAX, a week or two before PAX West, is when I was out of IP, or certainly like when.
Well, you and I talked the night before I left for PAX West.
Was it what it was? Okay.
It sounded
that
like
I was
you
leaving.
guys were going to be leaving.
Yeah.
In late August.
Sometime in late August. I don't know when PAX West is this year. I didn't go, but like I guess there's roughly that time period then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I left for then, and then. Do I have more questions?
That's for now. I think that's good.
Awesome.
So let's pass it over to you, Jazz. How have you gotten mixed up with all of us? And
it's all.
What,
yeah.
if anything, have you been doing in the creation space?
It was an accident. I met Frank 2 days ago when I walked into his house.
Yep.
It was a good time. I remember that moment.
Dude, I'm glad to know you, Frank.
That is one of the things
I feel like we get along well.
I feel like we do. I feel like we were really like two peas in a pod kind of scenario.
I think so. I think this is Logan's worst nightmare. Or
Yeah.
it could be. We could make it that.
It was one of the things that came up last week when I was recording this with Ben, Chloe, and Cameron, was like this moment where I was like, oh, you know what? No, I think everybody knows each other, because the ones I'd been worried about were like Ben and Chloe having met you, Jazz, but then I was like, oh no, she met them at RTX this year.
Yeah.
And yeah, it wasn't until I was here already, and we grabbed dinner over at your restaurant that you were like, no, I haven't met Frank yet, and I was like, oh, okay, that's the last pairing then. I guess real quick, back to you, Logan.
Yes.
Our absentee members, Cameron.
Oh yes,
Chloe and Ben.
My apologies. Yes, I've met Cameron at probably KFL 3 in San Francisco. Had a great time with him. Love Cameron. And then I met Ben. It would have been KFL 3 again. I love Ben very much. And then Chloe might actually be the person that I met the latest. I don't remember meeting her at KFL 3.
No, she wasn't at.
She wouldn't have been at any of the PAXs. I wouldn't have met Chloe until prom. She was part of the Prom Avengers with Ben and Jordan and Mario Not Bros.
Yeah. PSX was her. 2017 was her first like big thing in our kind of circles.
So Chloe was a newish person I've met, and then Trevor and Frank would be, I guess, the two first people I met.
Cool. All right. Sorry. Back to you, Jess.
Yeah, good. I would say you guys just said like your kind of circles. I don't know that I'm in that circle. A lot of the people on this site I just met, obviously Frank 2 days ago. Christian I met for about 5 minutes at an IHOP at 1 in the morning during RTX. So, but that went well. Yeah. Yes. I also met Chloe and Ben at that RTX. Briefly for Chloe, she seems really cool. Yep. Ben I hung out with for a little bit. Both Trevor and Cam I met at Irrational Passions Extra Life 2017. I did meet Logan there too. Really kind of got thrown into that one. One, Alex O'Neill, previously unmentioned, invited me. And he was like, you're not... He didn't say this. I'm going to say this. He didn't say this. He was like, you're not a part of anything, but you're my friend. And so I went. And I was not a part of anything. And that's where I met a lot of lovely people in this industry. Yeah, Trevor, Cam, Logan, that's where I actually met all of them in person. And they decided to keep me around, like the stray dog you find in the alley. More like a cat, but you get the point. And then Logan moved into my apartment. God, like almost a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
When you moved to Austin, we did meet initially talking about Clue on Twitter.
That's true.
There was also a tweet thread about stomping Nazis.
Yes, there was.
At some point.
Yes, there was.
And then he just moved down. Yeah. That's where we've been for over a year now. Just co-parenting a awful fat cat. I haven't really been doing anything creatively that I've published, I would say. I had a review site in like 2010. So there is that. I know what I'm doing, but it's been a while. And I'm kind of getting back into the game. And Logan, being my roommate, has been very encouraging in trying to get me to do just anything, literally anything. And he kind of invited me into Trevor's trove, if you will.
Nice.
Thanks. So yeah, I'm testing my skills in this regard, see if I still got it.
Yeah. Excellent. Great. Frank.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like who to start off with here, but I guess we should probably start almost at like the beginning, where I guess that would be Trevor technically. Or I guess to back it up a little bit further, like Logan had mentioned, that man from Glen Ellen, Illinois, who's very loud on Podcast Beyond.
Guys, it's Greg Miller.
No, you ruined the secret. Damn.
Also heretofore unmentioned.
Yeah, why are we doing?
So there was Greg Miller, who was at IGN at the time and kind of their big host name. He was on Podcast Beyond. Some of the crew there left and started Kind of Funny. And as I continued watching the content, I got a little bit more into the online side and kind of the community. Trevor was actually one of the first people I made friends with in the community online, and kind of a couple other people we would talk online and hang out. And one day, randomly, we were all in someone's Twitch chat together. I believe it was Sean Pitts at the time. I think he was playing Destiny. And we all just decided we're going to go to PAX South 2016. It was about 2 weeks away.
Yep.
And I personally had never left the state I was in. Like, I'm from Arizona, had never left the state.
Buddy.
I booked all of the travel, basically, for Frank, having never met him.
I appreciate that a lot. I do think about that moment sometimes, about how, like, what a weird limb that was to go out on. But, like, Trevor booked my flight. He had the hotel for us.
So
like,
I need your middle name. It's got, and basically just as a heads up, it's got to match what's on your driver's license or your ID or whatever.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that was a whole different scenario that we don't even need to get into. But yeah, like it worked out. And I ended up in San Antonio at PAX South with Trevor and Sean Pitts and a couple of our other friends, Zyger and Christian. And yeah, made some friends that I've had for a really long time. And that's actually the same event I met Christian at. We were at the convention center and Christian was there doing his videos, his BTS, getting some shots. And he just kind of came over to say hey, and we've been hanging out ever since there at a lot of different shows and conventions and stuff like that. And then from there, I kind of got the bug for traveling and talking to people, meeting people in the community. And so I kept spending more and more time online and in Twitch chats and Twitter. Traveled to every single show for 2 or 3 years, PAX South, West, East, PSX, Let's Play Live, like whatever the hell was going on. I was there, RTX, and then that's where I believe Logan would have been the next person I met. No, actually, I'm sorry, Cameron. Cam was the next person I did meet because Trevor introduced me to Cam because we're all kind of the Arizona crew for Kind of Funny. And then we went to PAX East. I believe it was 2017. Like Logan said, was able to meet you and a lot of the IP guys and some other great people. I think I met Ben at PSX. I think that might have been the first time I met Ben was PSX, like also 2017 maybe, or no, maybe KFL 2.
Yeah, you would have been there.
Yeah. So I think I met Ben at KFL 2, and I definitely remember we had some good times drinking together and hanging out, and I think that's definitely how we kind of got in some closeness and arguing about like Disney Channel original movies and like drinking. And then I did, like Jazz said, I met Jazz about 2 days ago on Friday when she came in. I've seen you online. I feel bad I've never just like said anything or reached out, I guess.
Man, I haven't either, so we're chilling.
And then I believe the last person is just Chloe, and I didn't meet Chloe for the first time until PAX West this year in 2019. We didn't get to spend a lot of time together. I wish we could have got to spend more time together and kind of get more familiar. But that's one of the more recent ones as well. Yeah. Did I hit everybody on that?
Yeah, I think you got through everybody. And then in terms of kind of your background in creating content and whatnot.
I definitely feel like I got in on that, or at least tried to a little bit early. I found podcasts in kind of like the late 2000s-ish, kind of in that early Beyond era, almost mid Beyond era. Also listening to like the Nerdist podcast. I always wanted to do podcasts, make content, talk about games and nerdy stuff. And I started a blog way back then that had some followers, definitely not that many. Content wasn't that particularly amazing. But I was able to start getting like media badges to shows like Phoenix Comic-Con and some local stuff, and I felt like that kind of helped me keep going. I bounced around since then on just a lot of other projects that are kind of a little bit smaller, maybe never really like blew up or got too many viewers, but different podcasts, different YouTube channels. That's definitely the stuff I've been interested in. And now I'm really happy to be a part of the site and part of a good group of people who are just like passionate and want to make content.
Excellent. And when did you come out to Austin?
Oh, yeah. I can't believe I forgot that. So, yeah, it was I just recently crossed 3 years in Austin. Yeah. It was September 17th. I can never forget that day.
Nice.
I moved here September 17th, 2016, and I've been here ever since. And, yeah, like that's also kind of another big thing, too, is because in that same PAX South trip, I met somebody who's part of the crew. And we kind of, on the next trip, we were just talking about how we wanted to change. We weren't happy with how things were going at the time, and we just wanted something different. And we both moved to Austin, and we've both been here ever since. And that's just definitely a crazy time. But that's another thing I'm definitely thankful for, honestly.
Excellent. Great. And then rounding out the crew, Christian, who of the people in this room, you're certainly the one I've known the longest.
Yeah.
As I want to say, we met at... I don't know if we actually met so much at Beyond 400, but like we were both there, and I remember seeing your videos after the fact. And being
it might have
like,
been just in
really
passing because
cool.
I do remember more of spending time with you at PSX, but at PAX South.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I remember both that Beyond 400 and then PSX in San Francisco that year. I remember like this guy walking up and down the line while we were in line for Beyond 400. This guy coming and taking videos and stuff, and I remember seeing like somebody linked me to it a couple days later and being like, "Oh my god, that was a really cool video." Oh look, there's me. And then similarly like same kind of experience at PSX later that year. But then I think we really started to like hang out more and just get to know each other better through that same PAX South that Frank was talking about. But how about you? Kind of how do you know the rest of the crew?
Yeah, Logan I met first on Twitter, and then we finally met in person at a kind of funny event. I was a big fan of, I still am a big fan of Irrational Passions. And so you were working with them, so that's how I got to know you. Jazz, I'd seen on the Extra Life stream, so I knew about you.
God,
breakout
I'm
star.
so sorry.
Breakout star of that stream, man.
Boy.
I knew about you, and so I had context for when Logan did come out here. I was like, oh, okay, Jazz, I'd heard about it. I started following you on Twitter by then, I think, already. And yeah, we finally met in person momentarily at that IHOP. And but this weekend's been a really fun opportunity to getting to know you over drinks and food and games. What more could you want, right?
Yeah.
Especially when we're starting off something like a collaborative effort, and like the cherry on top of the cake, we're also raising a little bit of money for kids. It's like that's always nice too. And I think like, through the conversations we kind of covered, meeting you and Frank, and it's been fun. Just getting to hang out with Frank and Logan since they've moved here, and looking forward to seeing Jazz more often too. And as far as content creation goes, I've been like shooting and editing videos for like 15 years. What people know me, but that was all like short films and things in high school and things like that. But what probably got me here was the event footage videos that I started doing, which kicked off at Beyond 400, and then ever since then just going to kind of funny events, PlayStation events, PAX, and then most recently I've gotten into collaborating with different like video game PR to shoot their convention coverage, their booths and things like that. And that's really fun, but I wanted to really start collaborating to make not what happens at a lot of these conventions, whether it's PAX, PSX, KFL, whatever. It's really just like, Christian, you're here, we know what you do, you're kind of like free to do whatever you want. And I've been looking for an opportunity to collaborate in a way where I'm given more direction, where I it's there's more give and take, and just like I said, collaboration is the big word that I was really looking forward to. And so when Trevor approached me, I was like, oh, that's awesome. So I'm looking forward to just making the vision of the site a reality through video, through my love of video, visual arts, and just supporting anyone else on the team. Like Jazz, you know about alcohol and things like that. I don't know anything about alcohol. I know like 3 drinks and that's it. But like I haven't mentioned this at all to you, so you're hearing this on audio for the first time. But I was like, oh, like that would be cool to like do like you could teach me some drinks and we could do it on video. We can do like unboxings of fancy bottles or things like that. Like anything like that, even if it's out of my wheelhouse or whatever. Like I'm like, you love it, I love video, so let's just combine this and do something with that. So I was looking forward to that, and like an extra thing that I was looking forward to was that even though I'm competent with video, there's so many other things that I'm not very well versed in, such as podcasting and all the RSS feeds and things like that. I feel like it's matrix, it's gobbledygook and all that stuff, but to know that there's like a team there that can help get my vision out there. One in particular, like I'm really nerd about anime, and I'd been trying to get something anime related off the ground, and I'm so glad that Trevor was paying attention to that and was like, hey Christian, like we got you, you know. And so I'm just really excited to work with everybody, and yeah, like I said, not only to make my ambitions happen, but to help everybody else with theirs too. So
I'd also add that Christian, as always, is incredibly modest and is far more than competent at video editing and his video production skills. They're quite extraordinary. Just
Christian's
routinely.
eye for his shot. Like,
Yes.
He's been
It's incredible.
clipping stuff out for us and giving stuff out
Yes.
for us all weekend for this 3-day launch. And there was just like one shot in particular. We're just eating chicken wings. The amount of confidence I've had this weekend, because I'm like, damn, I could be a hand model looking at my hands eating a chicken wing. Never in my life,
Yeah.
right? But like, you are so good at seeing what works. Like,
Yep.
you're incredible, man.
Oh,
and
thanks.
it would be, I think it'll be really cool to experiment with some new stuff with you. I think that'll be super cool. But you're very good at what you do,
Thanks.
so let's not get that twisted.
Yeah, that's real quick. I also just to fill in a couple of the other little dots. Christian, obviously you probably met Cameron at one of those.
oh yeah, there's
PSXs
still
and
more. Yeah,
Ben and
Cameron.
Chloe.
Probably Cameron and Ben probably had Kind of Funny Lives. Chloe, I remember meeting at PSX. It's hard to forget meeting Chloe because we met over what do you call it? Zootopia webcomics.
Right.
That's
Yeah. We
Wow.
That sounds like a Joey thing for
Yeah.
like 100%.
that came up in last week's episode too. Yeah, we talked about how Chloe kind of got introduced to the community at PSX 2017. She hit me up randomly while like I was at Disneyland. We hung out at Disneyland, like, and then just kind of she came into the fold. And yeah, that weekend, as we did in those days when we were all hanging out at the Hilton, she just pulled out this nerdy Zootopia comic that she loved and loved to show other people. That was very much Zootopia, but with a very like pro-life, pro-choice debate themed message. Just going
very
through
adult.
it.
Very
Oh my
adult.
god, I
Yeah.
know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah. So like all of us
That's my
drunk
wallpaper.
around the Hilton, drunk in a Hilton lobby bar, just like reading through this, being like, "What the hell is this new person showing us?" And
So
yeah,
intense.
Christian was there with that.
But it was the same kind of funny energy. So and,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and
Doesn't sound funny.
That was also the year you were making the. I loved you had the little Final Fantasy 15
yeah.
videos
I've been-
of like the inn, you stay in the inn kind of thing, and you're just like cranking out a little overlay on just us hanging around in the lobby doing that.
I forgot about those, but those were I like kind of go back to what Logan was saying too, like Christian's talent. Like
Yeah.
it was literally just like 4 of us sitting in the Hilton bar, not even, people on phones, I don't even know, whatever. And then it's like he's like, okay, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna put all the Final Fantasy 15 graphics over this. Final Fantasy 15 just come out like 2 weeks ahead of time.
Yeah.
You were playing it at the time.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, dude, those are beautiful. Like I remember exactly what you're
This is
talking
actually a
about.
Christian fan podcast.
Yeah,
We didn't have to tell you until right now, but
But yeah, so I think that brings us kind of all together. Yeah, I when I originally kind of started coming up with the ideas for this show, or for not even for this show necessarily, but for the site, the first idea that I had was the video game list ranking show, and didn't know if that was going to be enough to bring me back into the fold. I originally kind of pitched it to Logan and said, hey, if you guys want to do this at Irrational Passions or something, go for it. I'm not necessarily looking to get back into the swing of things. But then the other ideas kept coming and kept flowing, and Logan and I had a conversation, and I was like, I'm freaking out because I'm thinking of all these ideas and I'm gonna burn myself out again, like I have the last couple times. And that was leading right into kind of PAX West, where we kind of had the conversation of like, yeah, but you don't have to do this alone. And I was like, oh, good point. So I reached out to Ben and Chloe, who were staying with me at that PAX. I talked to Frank and Christian about kind of pitching the idea to you guys there and bringing you on board. And yeah, Christian in particular. Hey, yeah, you're a freaking phenomenal video editor.
Yeah.
But I wasn't even anticipating being able to effectively utilize those skills, given that we're basically operating out of 4 different cities. But the thing I was excited for you about was the anime show, and fortunately, as of this recording, we have reached our Patreon goal for that for that project. So we will be able to roll that out soon, and so I'm very excited because you've dabbled in it here and there with Twitter videos and stuff like that, and so I'm very excited to have kind of a platform for you to really dive into that, because I know you and Ian are clearly the 2 people in the world I know that know the most about anime stuff. I'm just barely dipping my feet in. I'm still I'm watching My Hero Academia all the time. That's great and a ton of fun. But I know that there's an audience for that kind of content, and being able to bring you on board to kind of do it, I think feels like a nice, exciting niche for the website and kind of the project as a whole. So yeah, I guess tell us if you're comfortable kind of diving into what do you want to bring to the site. We haven't really talked about your ideas for that show, and I know you're still workshopping and fleshing some out, but I know you do have some ideas. If you want to kind of share some of that. Or if you want to keep it close to the vest, we can just kind of say
yeah. For the anime show in particular, I already have kind of ideas for that, because I mentioned, I was trying to get that off the ground, and had been thinking of ideas and the structure and everything for it, and even recorded kind of a pilot. But like I said, for me the technical barrier is all the RSS feeds of in iTunes approval and stuff. I remember trying to get all that, and I was I don't know what I'm doing here.
I just learned pretty much all that in the last week myself.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm and that's also an element of I've done the creating my own content and kind of driving my own stuff, and at this point, I still very much want to do that, but I also want to take kind of my business skills and my business acumen and kind of do that, because I know that that's a much bigger barrier for a lot of people trying to create content, and so that was very much I want to be the one that's handling that stuff, I talked about in my kind of launch post. I went ahead and got that nerdy site set up as a proper LLC. I've got the tax ID and all the the appropriate articles of organization and a checking account for us
good stuff I don't have to worry about
to do all the business stuff. And I went ahead and got the podcast feeds all set up, and grabbed all the social accounts and secured all that stuff. And now that we're up and going, I can start kind of handing out those things for other people to kind of really manage and make their own. But yeah, helping facilitate your ideas is certainly one of the things I'm excited about. I'm never going to be able to make a great anime show myself, but I can help you make a great anime show is my hope.
Yeah, I won't go into the full structure, but some of the bigger points of an episode will be that it'll be seasonal. There's animes released, spring, winter, fall, etc. And I will do a recap. But there's so much anime that comes out, so I'm just gonna pick maybe 3 and just briefly talk about what I thought of it and what I'm excited about, things like that. But the part that I'm most excited about is that I really want to incorporate kind of a rotating chair of guests to hit topics, because I can talk about anime, but it's fun. It's even more fun when you're talking to someone else about it. So every week I want to tackle a topic. Like maybe one week we'll talk about. I'll bring on a guest and we'll talk about maybe our favorite anime movies, studios, genres. Maybe we'll have a whole episode just talking about magical girls. Another one talking about mecha. Another one talking about just Pokemon. Anything. I just have a big list of all these different anime topics and. Like
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood versus the original or whatever.
I was just about to bring that up. Thank you. Yeah, something that has been like a shame or whatever is that Full Metal Alchemist. I don't want to like. Hi, I'm Christian Puente, and I trip over my words a lot, and so that's why I'm usually pretty like short spoken. But I'll try to get through this. But an example would be Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is a very popular anime that I've been avoiding. And but I did mention in Twitter, like, hey, if we reach the goal, I'll finally watch it. And King Franchise, friend of the show, has been, or friend of us anyways, hopefully soon to be friend of the show. Yeah, like he mentioned, like, dude, like I can't wait for you to watch it. And so that's someone I'd love to bring on and talk about that after I've experienced that. And so I'm excited not only to have a platform to talk about anime, but to also get to have these one-on-one conversations about different topics. And that's part of. Oh, and I definitely want to incorporate. This is kind of a small idea. I don't know if it'll make its way into it. I have to like develop it a bit more, but I definitely also want to include kind of a culture corner where, let's say there's some samurai in the anime that I'm watching right now, and then maybe at the end I'll talk maybe for 5 minutes about like the history of the samurai or like their influence in popular culture, things like that. So I'll take a small element from an anime I'm watching or something that was in the topic, and then at the end, kind of dive into a bit. There's a lot of cooking anime that I watch, so maybe a dish that's showcased, be like, oh, like, yeah, like, I love onigiri, like, and this is when I first had it, and this and that. Like, take inspiration from the shows and dive a bit deeper, including kind of a little culture corner in the episode. So those are kind of the three main pillars. There's the recap for the seasonal anime, the one-on-one guest interactions to talk about different topics, and then the culture corner where, yeah, anime is great, but, like, this all comes from inspiration from real culture, and so let's get to appreciate that a little bit too. So
very cool.
I'm excited.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Frank, how about you? What are some of the things you're excited to bring to the table?
Ooh, yeah, I'm excited to do a lot, and I definitely want to kind of like work with Christian on some video stuff and try to get some of those skills kind of developed a little bit better. But one of the things kind of like host-wise I'm excited about is it's part of our Patreon tiers, so if we hit that, this is a show that you all could see kind of coming down the pipeline, but it's one we talked about a little bit called the, I don't know if we have like a confirmed title for that, but it'd basically be like a nostalgia podcast.
That nostalgia show. That right now currently fits with the branding of everything else.
I thought that would work. I thought that would definitely work, and as you can probably guess based off the name, it kind of hits in that vein of nostalgia and what are we nostalgic about. That is something when I try to think about things that are kind of in my wheelhouse, kind of like what you were talking about with anime, or what are you passionate about? And that's just one of those things that weirdly enough I'm just like super passionate about, and Trevor can attest. I won't shut up about all these old things that no one wants to hear about. But that's where I thought it'd be really fun to still workshopping it a little bit, but I think it'd be really fun to pull various guests in, and then just kind of pick a topic. It could be a game, a book, a movie, a TV show. Something from the past that, somebody's really passionate about, either myself or the other person. You kind of think of it as like, sometimes it could be like we're both really into it and we're just kind of gushing over this thing, but sometimes I definitely think it could be like, hey, this is something I'm very passionate about, you probably don't know about, and I want to just kind of bring that to the forefront and kind of show some people some older things that can really be good. And you can possibly even see like where inspiration came from for other things, like even maybe some anime or something like that, That's what I'm really excited about. One of the other things we had also kind of talked about as well, I believe it's also on the Patreon, is an idea I had a little bit back in the day for I kind of just call it like a gaming history podcast.
Oh.
I really love just like talking to people and like hearing stories and just kind of chatting about that. And I feel like there's a lot of really great personal stories with just gaming and moments that touched you, games. Oh, I got this console because I traded in 30 copies of NHL 94 and like true story. That's not mine, but that's someone's. I want to have them on. It's good. Or even like, oh, I was saved up all my money to buy birthday money to buy a PS2, and somebody stole it out of my locker. Also, a real story that I would like to have that person on as well to tell that.
Here's a little something we might talk about sometime. I was a Nintendo kid, but I was so close to being a PlayStation kid.
Oh yeah.
I got a PSX for a PS1 for Christmas one year, but we didn't really get the whole CD thing. Like, wait, do these go in our computer or this? So we just returned it and got N64. So there's totally a world out there where I would have been a PlayStation kid for the longest time and not been Nintendo. So that's something.
Yeah.
It was an example of like stories to talk about.
No, exactly, because we've been friends for a long time, and you've never told me that story, or we've never talked about it. But this is exactly the kind of thing I want. Like, I want to hear these things and go in detail and kind of just talk about it. And again, a little bit nostalgic almost. Again, back in that wheelhouse. But like, I really like that. Like, and I hope it'll be fun. I hope we hit those Patreon goals, and I hope everybody gets to kind of come along as everybody from the site. And I'd like to pull in other people, even if it's just kind of people who don't even necessarily make content, but I know they have some stories that would be good for this.
Excellent. Jazz.
Yeah.
You certainly like are the one, like, we've not talked ever about podcasts or stuff, and you're one of the people that came and said, like, hey, I want to do writing. I haven't, like, I like writing, I want to write, and you have a website that can post articles and features and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, and it's gonna be way better if it's not just like Logan and me writing.
The only people who write,
because everybody else is very much like podcast centric or focused kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm happy to invite anybody else at the site, of course, to write reviews or features or whatever else they want to do. But like Jazz kind of reached out and was like, I want to write. That's the thing I want to do. And I was like, I'm very excited by this. So, and also your ideas of what you want to write about, because as you kind of touched on earlier, like, you are I would say, and not in a bad way or anything, but you're like the most outsider of our circle of friends, because you're not as versed in the gaming culture communities that we've been in for the last 4 or 5 years, and how we kind of all met. So like, that's not your focus. That's not really what you're looking to do. But you're bringing in like a completely other fresh voice to the table that, like, you obviously this weekend, like, you can hang with us and play games and hang out and have a great time and all that stuff. But the ideas that you're bringing aren't necessarily centered around that, and that excites me, because that nerdy site isn't meant to just be video games. It is meant to be like everything that we're nerdy about. For a lot of us, that is video games, but it's also movies, it's film, it's anime, it's comics, it's whatever. And you have, I think, one of the more unique voices of kind of the group. So if you would like to share your kind of ideas for the site.
Yeah, thank you, by the way. Yeah, I guess I consider myself the wild card of the site, so to speak. Yeah. Because, no, you're right. I don't know a lot about video games, and that's certainly, Logan and I have discussed it, doing, like, Let's Plays of games Jazz hasn't played, because Jazz hasn't played any video games. So there's a lot of content there to be had, certainly. Probably a lot of rage involved. But it's never been my wheelhouse, and I did mention I tripped into this friend group. I've been very lucky to have met all of you and to have the friends that I have, because this isn't something that I was pursuing or following. This was a happy little accident, as Bob Ross would say.
Hell yeah.
But I do, I'm thrilled to be involved, and my nerdy focuses are different they're not video games. So the first thought that I had was that I want to write about beer, which is like an alcoholic thing to say, but there's a lot of craft involved. And this is my nerdy thing, is that I love beer for the craft of it, and drinks in general, alcohol in general, for the craft of it. Like, you can do shots of well tequila all night, and that's whatever, but like, there are some incredible things you can do with flavors and cocktails and brewing styles, and there's so much to that. And so that's what I want to write about. So what I pitched to Trevor is doing maybe like a bi-week, like every other week, do a bit about a beer style or a cocktail or the history of a liquor. I have a piece I'm working on about a speakeasy in Austin, just as an intro piece. And the whole idea is making a speakeasy on the website. Because, like I said, I'm the wild card. I'm the one that's a little bit outside of it, and so I think it's a little strange to find a column about liquor on a website about gaming, and that's a speakeasy because you're finding something in a place you don't expect. So that's what I'm working with right now. But I think, there's a lot of options. Even just before we started recording this, I made a joke about doing a hockey column, and I was like, no, I could do that though. Because I love hockey. We could bring sports into this.
Absolutely.
I think I'll predominantly be a writer. I don't have much of a presence. I'm not much of a video person, but we could do the Let's Plays. Logan's making a face at me like he doesn't believe me, but that's about par for the course. It's going to be mostly writing, and I think that my main thing is going to be drinks. And the history, the culture, how they affect... I mean, not just how alcohol affects us. We all know what happens when you drink, right? You get drunk. But, like, how flavors work and stuff like that. And we'd also mentioned, I hear Frank wanted to do a cooking thing.
Hell yeah.
Oh, man.
And
Nice.
drink pairings is a really big passion of mine, too, because there's an art to pairing a food flavor with a drink flavor and making those mesh perfectly. So that's something I think would be great to do.
Hell yeah.
We'll film that or whatever, but, like, stuff like that. But, yeah, you're right. Writing is, like... mostly into the writing thing, so hopefully I'll help you with that aspect of the site.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think what you also kind of just touched on there, one of the most exciting things for me about having half of the team all here in Austin in one place is you guys significantly more than the rest of us will be able to like collaborate in real time and on real projects together. And that was kind of a Frank pitch, like, hey, I really want to do a cooking kind of thing. I don't know how great I am at it or whatever, but I want to do it and just kind of like shoot the shit with friends while we cook and stuff.
It's one of the ideas I'm most excited for as well.
And yeah, like simultaneously and separately from that, Jazz kind of pitched like wanting to do like a drinking show, and I was like, you guys could like pair those things together. Christian can film it, and you kind of basically just do
Logan
like
can show up.
Like Logan can show up and eat and drink. And
Logan
you can
won't
all
drink, guys. He will
you
not.
can all do that together and have a great time. And like that's something that the four of you together can create. In a way that we don't like that I couldn't do with Ben, or even with Cameron. Like we might be able to get together and do some of that stuff and talk about it, but having like Christian around to be able to film it and kind of record it and stuff in a way that like we wouldn't have necessarily in Phoenix is very exciting a prospect for me.
Yeah.
And again, it's in our wider circle of friends, it's not something that a lot of people are doing or looking at kind of doing. It is kind of like a, hey, like this is going to be something that maybe there isn't an audience for necessarily, but there's an audience out there somewhere for it. And so the collaboration that the Austin kind of side of the organization is going to be able to do is another one of those like incredibly exciting things for that nerdy site for me. Logan, take us home with kind of the dreams and goals for the project.
Yeah, I think echoing what Trevor said a little bit, it's kind of seeing and using the tools that I've been afforded and I've had, right, and the years spent doing this to kind of help further other people's passions and things, right? Like I want Christian to do his anime show, knock it out of the park, which you will, and like help out any way I can in terms of like RSS feeds, which is super, whatever, and like the podcast side of that, and like just helping him out, like how to structure it, kind of thing. Like any advice I can give, right, to him or Ben with that wannabe film class, and like helping him out, right. Like a big thing for me for that nerdy site is building an actual collective of people and an actual team that supports each other, and I think kind of can give the advice and the tools and the kind of tricks they've learned over the years, right? Where it's like Christian is better than all of us at video editing and stuff, but we, at least a few of us, want to get better. We want to learn. We want to kind of improve that craft and that slice of our kind of portfolio or whatever, right? And like me and Trevor are people who have been in front of a microphone and just talked a lot for years, and so like we have that skill, if you want to call it, and like we can give that and kind of give advice and whatever to like Ben or to Christian or to Frank or to Chloe or anybody else that wants to do that kind of thing, right? And I think me, Trevor, and Jazz, people who are somewhat decent at writing and who can give any sort of advice or whatever pro tips that others might want in there, right? And like a big aspect for me for the site is actually building a team, right? And I think helping other people do the things they want to do, right? And like in addition to that, it is like, I think, and this is like technically cheated and going to like the next question as well, but it's like having a place that is, I think, not just even like where multiple kind of passions and multiple kind of things people care about can be housed, but where like they're actively encouraged, right? And where like they're actively kind of supported, right? Where it is that thing of, yeah, if you want to talk about video games, if you want to talk about like movies, if you want to talk about anime or drinking or cooking or like films or like music, whatever it is, like they're all these things we can kind of whatever the fuck Chloe's gonna talk about with robots. Like they can all be places that we can kind of rally around and champion and kind of figure out like how can we get like this thing you're really passionate about out into the world, and how can we best, I think, craft and help shape this idea you have into making it a thing that is really great and that really kind of stands out and that you can be really excited about and proud of. And I think those are the things that I'm kind of excited about, right? And in the same vein where Trevor was like, I'm a businessman with like a suit and a tie and all that stuff, and like I'm excited to do that kind of thing to help you guys support your dreams. It's like I'm not a businessman, but I'm somebody who has done this kind of creative thing for a long time. And like I want to pass on that thing, right? Like I want to build something. And in addition to that, it is like, yeah, like doing shows that I think are really cool and interesting and are unique, right? Like I think that video game list show is a really cool idea that isn't really found anywhere else in the industry, right? And so like that's one that excites me, right? And I think that Wannabe Film Class is a cool kind of twist on the usual film podcast and the usual film show, right? And I think that a cooking drinking show very much is not the usual show that you'll find in like an entertainment focused website, right? And I think it's super exciting and appeals to, like Trevor said, a different audience and a broader audience than the ones that I think we'll usually kind of find ourselves interacting with, and that's exciting to me. And I think that the ideas I have in my head for what the video game like news show I would want to do is a show that is different and unique from the ones that would you usually kind of find housed within the industry, right? And like I think it's doing the things that we're passionate about, and doing them in a way that I think are different and unique, because I think that we're all people who are different and unique and kind of have their own strengths and passions. And one of my favorite things about that nerdy site is that we're a very eclectic group of people, to put it mildly. And I think that kind of diversity of thought and opinion and styles and passions is actually going to become, and actually already is, one of the greatest strengths of the site, and actually kind of is already one of the strongest aspects of the foundation of what we're building. And so that's something that excites me. That's something that I'm eager to kind of bring out more in all of us and in the site.
Yeah. Great. One of the things that I thought about as kind of I continued listening to you guys talk, that Christian, you mentioned earlier, like collaboration and being collaborative is something that like really excites you about this. Yeah. And Logan, as you mentioned, that nerdy or that Wannabe Film Class, like I thought back to the last week where you and Ben and Chloe sat down and recorded it. And then Christian came in and offered to kind of edit it all together because Ben doesn't have that skill set yet. He's going to learn it and pick it up as he kind of goes. But for Ben and Chloe, this really is like their first podcast. Yeah. And so the fact that we are able to kind of share other insight and expertise in that to kind of help them kind of get their legs under them and grow into the skills and the ideas that they have. And then Christian can kind of take that edited thing, get it to me, I can get it uploaded and go through all the RSS things that scare the crap out of him. And we have it out there and ready to go for people. And I love that as you guys have continued kind of working on ideas and things for that show as just like one example of Ben is super passionate about that. And so he has you guys listening to other film podcasts, movie podcasts to listen to kind of get a sense of where he wants to, like what he wants to pick and choose from other ideas out there. I love that's all happening pretty much like completely outside of anything I'm doing. I'm taking the final file and getting it up to Libsyn, and that's about all I needed to worry about for it. And that's, for me, as somebody who has done the bulk of what I've been doing for the last 5 years very much by myself, that's like incredibly exciting that like I've wanted to do a film show. I don't have time or the bandwidth to do a film show, but a film show is now happening that I can, be basically a proud father of, and it's out there, and people are listening to it.
Trevor's our dad.
It's been that way for a long time.
The prophecy of Daddy Trevor lives on. That's another story we touched on last week.
Oh, you already told the Daddy Trevor story?
Yeah, it came
like
up.
That, actually.
It came up. Ben called me Papa Starkey, and I was like,
that's good actually. I do like
Daddy
that.
Trevor was the actual moniker.
That was the line.
Like that.
I can confirm.
Yeah.
I was there. The actual line was Daddy Trevor.
It was Daddy Trevor, yeah. And Mama Joe, your older roommate.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm very much as has been the case for a while. I'm one of the older members in the community. Not that I'm old or anything, but like in a community of 20-somethings, the 34-year-old does stand out a little bit, and so I'm taking kind of my wisdom and the age in my years and stuff, and I'm doing what I can to help kind of bring up a new generation of content creators, and that's again
Is that us?
very exciting.
New class.
I think that's
Trevor
something.
Trove 2.0, but with less Trevor this time.
Yeah, like I think that's
Just the
something
Trove.
for me and Trevor that is something that's very important that we're each kind of passionate about, determined with this side, is that to bring up the next generation, using air quotes, of like content creators, right? And people who do this kind of thing, right? And like again, I think it's that thing of using what we've learned to kind of help them avoid the mistakes we've made, and like not do as much dumb shit as we did, or certainly I did, and like just like be afforded, I think, a head start that maybe we weren't, to be kind of learn a lot of things the hard way and make those mistakes and kind of make the bad choices or bad decisions or just kind of the whatever. And like I think that's exciting to me too, is that like we can give what we've learned to Frank and Ben and Chloe and Christian and Jazz, and have them teach us things that we don't know. And I think that collaborative effort is one of the things that is kind of woven within the fabric of that new site, and I think it's what makes me excited every day to kind of wake up and be like, all right, cool, like what is like a cool idea Christian might have today about anime or about film or about editing or about anything, right? Or like what is a cool idea Frank's gonna have about like his nostalgia show or like that 90s show or whatever it might be, or like
that works.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
That's a Jazz idea for you though. Or like
I also love that 70s show.
yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm 100 million % on board with
or
that.
like something that Jazz might have on to offer, right? Because Jazz has just riddled with like great ideas and these great talents, right? And so I think bringing those out and like helping to kind of encourage you guys to do those things and like give whatever we've learned to help that come to fruition is what I think excites me, and I think what excites Trevor the most about that nerdy site.
Yeah. And another great thing again for you guys that we also, I think was showcased this weekend as we all sat down and hung out and streamed for 30-ish hours this weekend, is that when I have to go back to Phoenix, you're all still here, and you can all come over here to Frank's house and
stream for 30
put
hours.
together, put together, a
Doors
stream
unlocked.
of Ultimate Chicken Horse,
Yeah.
where somebody else will actually win for once.
Yeah. It'd be weird. It
A
won't
win
feel
by
right.
omission is not a win, Trevor. Eat shit.
It won't feel right. Yeah.
I mean, I can certainly join in. We can play with online play, and I can smoke you from Phoenix. That's what I do. But like the fact that you
There it
guys
is.
will be here and be able to do that all
Yeah.
together is another great benefit. And I think I mean, like we talked about it a lot this weekend. And I think like that is going to happen. And I think you guys can have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
As we continue to grow the site and kind of continue to build it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, this website,
Sure.
it's gonna be kind of like a beacon for us to gather around, and like Frank literally lived 2 minutes away from me, and I didn't get to see him too much. Logan lived further away, but still not like
Yeah.
it's not out of unreasonable to think that we would visit each other more, and we even
Yeah.
worked for the same company for a while. But like, I think us following separate endeavors and stuff, it's hard to find the time. But now that we do have this one uniting thing that we can come around, like now we are seeing each other much more. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
We'll
is
have-
that campfire to rest at.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll have this show, which we're not gonna obviously all 8 of us be on each week, but
No.
we'll have kind of like we'll rotate people in and out, and it'll be like, oh, you know, Jazz hasn't gotten to hang out with or chat with Ben and Chloe for a little while, but like we'll bring Jazz on, and like that'll kind of get to because. As is almost always the case with those podcasts, like, yeah, there's like the section that you record for
Yep.
the audience, but then there's also like the hour or two of just catching
For
up
your post-show,
beforehand,
yeah.
and then
Bullshitting
afterwards and
around,
talking
yeah.
about
Yep.
like fun other things going
Yep.
on in everybody's lives. It is like I often think about podcasts like this as like, yeah, this is a scheduled way for me to actually commit to hanging out with friends,
yeah.
when I'm otherwise much more inclined to just be a hermit and keep to myself. And you know, I can appreciate that, but I can also appreciate the energy that I get from hanging out. I definitely don't think of myself as an extrovert, but as an introvert, hanging out and having those personal interactions with, you know, 7 or 8 people on kind of a regular basis is very like fulfilling and kind of charges my batteries up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very much excited for what the future holds. One of the things Logan and I talked late into the night about last night is the excitement that this weekend, as you know, it's certainly a culmination of, for me, 6 months of bringing everything together and getting everything kind of up and going and getting us out there. But the work is just beginning, and as Logan very eloquently put it yesterday, like, this is the smallest we're ever going to be.
Yeah.
Like, you know, in a very ideal setting,
Yeah.
you know, we will continue to bring on other collaborators, and you know, other people will have other things that they will hopefully want to share with the site and bring to the table, and you know, God willing, like the bandwidth to do other podcasts of their own or something like that. And so there's you know, just I think exponential room for growth.
Yeah.
Among us.
And it's smaller in like team size, and also small in fact, like, this is the smallest that we're ever going to be in terms of, like, what we're doing content wise, and like the production of this first movie we did. The next time that we stream, even if it's just like us chucklefucks in Austin, like, it'll be of a higher quality. Like, we'll have learned things. We've learned like kind of tweaks and like how we change things and make things better. Like, the quality of our content is going to be kind of at the lowest point it's going to be right now. And we're just going to get better with each week and each kind of thing we do and each kind of place that we go or whatever. And I think that's something to keep in mind too, is that like, this is the smallest it's ever going to be. This is going to be like the quote unquote like worst it's ever going to be, and it's just going to get better and grow from here. And I think both in terms of the team itself, I think in terms of the kind of the audience mind share, I think in terms of room for growth, like Trevor said, like, we're at the smallest point we're going to be now. We're just a bunch of guys in like a spare bedroom in San Francisco, kind of equivalent thing to like KF, and like, it's the exciting idea of like, and where we go from here, right? And like how we grow from there, right? Because like, we'll never have a first weekend like this again. We've done it now, right? And it's just grown from there. We'll never have a time period where like we weren't already basically like Twitch affiliates. We've done that, right? Like, we've launched a page and we've done these things, right? And it's like, all right, what's the next step? How do we go from here? How do we already build from here? And I think that's something that really excites me, and that I try to take hold of throughout the weekend, is that like, it'll never be like this again. It'll never be launch weekend again. And I think that's super exciting to be like, this is the crew. Like, this is like these 8 people all together, these 5 in the room right now. We're only going to grow from here. We're only going to get better at what we're doing from here. We're only going to learn more from here, whether it's podcasting wise, writing wise, whether it's video editing wise, whether it's just running a fucking site wise. We're only going to grow and learn more. And I think that's something that I think we should all remember, but also all be kind of excited by in the same boat.
Yeah, there's already like ideas running through my head for the anniversary stream next November 1st, kind of thing, and what we'll do, how we'll all come together.
That Nerdy Site 2020 presidential election stream. Yeah, it'll be a great time.
God.
Perfectly timed. It's gonna be rad. Like, not gonna be divisive or controversial. It's gonna be great.
Logan will spend the next year basically highlighting all of the nerdy politics things that he.
I'd like to introduce you to that political podcast.
We watched the Senate elections or the
2018.
Logan and I watched No, it was this year. We watched some elections this year because I just remember Logan was yelling and I was drinking.
That was a year ago, Jazz. That was 2018. That was Better Work and Ted Cruz.
Oh my god.
It's been a year. Yeah.
Oh, kill me. Neat.
Yeah,
well, I was so drunk, so that's why. But yeah, that was something that we could do.
We sure did. Yeah.
I'm very much excited for kind of everything we have out there, potential on the horizon, all that fun stuff. So let us kind of wrap up the episode here with kind of going around the table, and we actually have a table this time. Last week I had to be like the metaphorical table, and just kind of share again, kind of in closing. The nerdy things that like we're passionate about and that we love, and
5 words or less.
Obviously, not happy, but like that came up last week. Is like, oh god, I don't want to say the wrong thing. It's like if you're nerdy about it, it's not the wrong thing. It doesn't have to be the most nerdy thing that you have, but like just some things that you were nerdy about.
Yeah, something important. Yeah.
I mean, like like last week I mentioned like I'm obviously nerdy about video games and theater and stuff. One of the things on this topic, like Logan and I used to do a West Wing podcast, and while I'm certainly not nearly as like nerdy political wise as Logan, like it is something I follow and keep an eye on and would consider myself nerdy about.
Trevor, if we don't do something theater related, I'll be upset. That's it. I don't have a thread.
That was the end of the thought.
I don't have a thread. Trevor and I are both into theater. That's it. That's the whole thing. I didn't have the time to come up with a creative.
That is another one.
Anyway, Trevor, you want to do something theater related?
I saw Anastasia last week.
It's a backdoor pilot,
which was a lot of fun. And yeah, one of the I meant to bring it up earlier when we talked, but one of my favorite memories from that Extra Life 2017 was was it Alex driving Roger Picorni and I, like Roger to the train station, me to the airport, and Jazz was in the car with us, and like we just we put Hamilton soundtrack on like random for like 5 or 6 songs and just all like sang our hearts out.
It was a performance. It
was a ton of fun, and yeah, like I saw Anastasia last week, and that's something that like with Trevor Trove I did. It doesn't make for the most like wide-reaching content because it's like here's the production of Anastasia that I saw. That if you're in Phoenix, you can see for the next it ended today, so as we record this, so it's not incredibly like useful to share that, but it is something that I'm sure I will like sit down and be like, I am gonna write about. Like one of the things as I was going through and migrating all of like the Trevor Trove archives over basically everything I wrote over at Trevor Trove, I stumbled upon one of the favorite things I ever wrote there was my review of the Hamilton mixtape. Because it was a mixing of like I've never been a music guy, but I looked at that album in relationship to the theater that had kind of inspired it and the stories and everything I knew about it, and like I put so much time and critical analysis into that, much more so even than I do in a video game, because I just like use different parts of my brain for that. So like it's definitely something I'm certainly passionate about, and if we can't, like I would gladly sit down and be like, okay, let's like, hey, Shrek the Musical is up on Netflix. Let's watch that and just talk about it, because it is something that we can experience now and anybody else can experience it too, in a way that a lot of theater is more ephemeral. But I would love to collaborate and come up with some theater ideas and stuff.
Cats the Musical, the movie?
Oh god,
we're doing that. We're doing that.
I'm gonna hate
Trevor,
that
we're in
so
it.
much.
I'm not gonna like it, but we're gonna do it.
I'm gonna need to be super drunk for that.
The cool
The
cool thing about our different interests, like theater, that, is that it gives us more insight into us, the content creators. a lot of us follow Greg Miller, and sure, he doesn't make content about wings and backyard wrestling, but knowing about those parts of his past, about Mizzou and the antlers and all that, like it gives us insight into his personality, which makes us even more invested into him as a content creator. And so yeah, even if we don't think someone might be following politics or theater, like that tells you more about who we are. And so when you watch my anime show or reading or whatever, writing about alcohol, like you have that in the back of your head more about who we are as people.
Yeah, and the general, the more like normal scope of this show.
This is what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Will be that it
Yep.
will be like if this had been a normal episode of that Nerdy Site show, what I would have brought to the table would have been like, I saw Anastasia this week, and here's what I thought about the production. It was really cool. Here are the changes I love from what they did with the movie into the musical and all that stuff. And so in next week's episode, I'm gonna hold on to that because I'm still gonna have those thoughts for next week. But this show will be, here are the nerdy things that I did last week. Let's talk about it.
Awesome.
Or since the last time we met and talked and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Movies, video games, whatever. We don't have, the more dedicated, like, we jokingly call it kind of the What's Up Everybody show. Your Game Over Greggy, your Kind of Funny podcasts, your Easy Allies podcast, whatever the case may be. It is that, like, hey, this is that opportunity to talk about what's going on in our lives, focusing hopefully on, like, the things we love about them, i.e. the nerdy things, and not the, sad, dour, real life, like, oh, hey, I don't have a job anymore. That's something I'm going through, and it's something that we can and will talk about, but I like the predominant focus will hopefully be on, like, the things we're super passionate about. As kind of the, like, let's look at the bright side of what we've been experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this show in particular is one of the things that I'm most excited about, which is one of the things I'm most nerdy for, we'll say, to actually answer the question. Like, I think I love the Game of Greggy show. Like, I think it's a great show, and I think it showcases, to Christian's point, like, who these people are without them needing a dedicated podcast on backyard wrestling or eating chicken wings or Grandma Miller or any of the dumb bits they did. Like, you just learn about who these people are. You learn about who the people who make the content you like actually are. You kind of learn their stories and their dumb, like, bits and jokes, and you develop this kind of, I think, more personal connection with them that way. You can see who they actually are that way. And I think that's why I've always been drawn to those kind of shows. You get kind of, I think, a better glimpse of who they are as people. And I know all of us, I know we all have a lot of dumb, really funny, really goofy, really heartwarming, really great stories to share. So I've always been very excited about this show. Like, Trevor can attest to the fact that, like, this is one of the shows that I, like, mentioned the most as we were launching this. Like, this is the thing that, like, I personally am, like, very excited and driven to kind of see, just kind of expand to all of us have on it and get on there as many times as possible and just kind of include other people and just, like, reach out to, I think, the audience in a more personal way, to Christian's point. Also, the original question of what we're nerdy for. I mean, yeah, like, it's video games, it's movies. Like, I'm somebody who, again, like, I'm annoyingly optimistic. I like most things. Like, I like pretty much everything. I like politics, I like pizza, I like all the kind of things. And, like, that's what I think, again, makes that Nerdy Site so great, is that it is also an outlet to talk about all the things that we're nerdy for, all the things that we're excited about, all the things that we love and are passionate about. Whether it is, like, video games or theater or, like, drinking or cooking or anime or whatever it might be, or, like, why Domino's Pizza is great, which is for sure going to be a topic on the show at some point in time. Like, it'll be an outlet for, like, all those kind of things.
I was going to say, ranking the fast food
which is
pizza
totally going to happen.
Austin
Yeah,
is going to
like,
be something that
Guys,
Logan puts on the site at some
Logan
point.
and I are going to stop living together if we make that
Yeah.
ranking. That's
And, like,
going to be the fight.
It's going to be, like, that's what makes me excited. Those are the things I'm nerdy about. There's just, like, everything, and actually having, I think, a platform that is excited to talk about all those things and, like, excited to kind of encourage all of us to share those passions. It's like, that would be my answer.
Great. How about you, Jazz?
What I'm nerdy about?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm excited about this site, but I'm not going to do the Logan thing. So
Didn't expect you
I'm nerdy about drinking. I am, specifically about beer. That's sort of my wheelhouse. It's what I know the best, and I'm fascinated with the craft. So I would say that. Books. I read a lot. Explains why I write a lot. Board games. Clue is the OG, but it turns out there's a lot of tabletop games out there that are cool to play. Shout out to when we played Secret Hitler and I broke Logan.
Yeah.
Brooke Alimushka, worse than me.
I did.
R.I.P. Ali.
Yeah, she's dead now.
Yeah.
And hockey. I'm nerdy about hockey, and I think it's interesting. I think we don't. Those are words that don't cross, right? Like if you're nerdy, it's probably not about sports.
Yeah.
And all the, you get sports writers who are obviously do the recaps and do the season stuff and commentary on sports, and we never really cross over nerdy in sports, but I am. I'm super nerdy about hockey. I have a couple of friends who are in a fantasy hockey league, and they specifically, to my face, they were like, we were going to invite you, but we decided you were too much of a secret weapon, so you couldn't be allowed because you're too nerdy about hockey. First of all, that's insulting. Yeah. But so I'd like to bring that too, being nerdy about something that you shouldn't be nerdy about. Those are it though. Those are my big ones. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Drinking without, like, I'm an alcoholic, but like the drinking thing is not necessarily about that, right? Like, there's so much there's an art to drinking that I think maybe we don't talk about enough, and that's one of my bigger focuses.
Yeah,
so I want that on record.
And I'm excited to learn about that.
Holla, dude.
I'm a videographer, and I watch a lot of demo reels and production reels, and there's a lot of videos out there of tours of different breweries. Austin has a bunch of breweries.
Oh,
and you're talking about the craftsmanship, and just the visuals show it all. Like the ingredients, the equipment, everything. I'm really fascinated to finally learn more about all of that.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah,
it's an art form, so we'll take this journey together. Yeah.
Jazz said something that I really like, which is not surprising, which is that, like, I think combining things that people are nerdy about that they're not supposed to be nerdy about, kind of thing, kind of subverts kind of expectations, right? And it's like, I don't know if anybody else at the site really is in the same way, but like me and Jazz are each like fanatical about sports, and like, I think it's the best way to describe it, right? We're freaks about it, right? But like,
did you know that Logan cursed the Boston Bruins last year? Because
Yeah.
I have not forgotten about it.
That's
and
a thing
he will be
Jazz
punished
certainly
later.
said I did, but like it's a thing where I think Jazz made a good point where it's like, yeah, like people who are nerdy about like entertainment and like movies or games or whatever it might be aren't people who are supposed to also be excited about sports, right? People who like these kind of things aren't necessarily people who usually view mixed together, right? And I think what is really rad about all of us is that we all have these kind of like Renaissance, like man or woman, like kind of passions of like multiple things that kind of transcend the usual kind of box people want to put you in, right? And I think that certainly, I think all of us here have like passions that cross some different lines and boundaries, and that's something again that like is exciting to explore, right? Where it is like, yeah, like Jazz made the joke, but it's like, yeah, like we people, and like Ramsey too, it's like we people who love sports, people who love drinking, and people who love like video games and movies and anime and all these things, and I think that that's not how people are supposed to like act. You have to pick one thing. Like, what is the thing you like, kind of thing. It's like, well, I like lots of things. There's the answer. Like, I like theater a lot too, and I like video games a lot. Like, I kind of like both the things equally passionately, kind of thing, and like want to talk and gush about both things. And I think that problems arise when people try to put you into one thing. Where it's like you can only talk about video games and nothing else. You can only talk about this and nothing else. And it's like a lot of my, and like also like writing, where it's again like something else that me and Jess and Trevor all share kind of a passion for, and it's like some of my favorite writers, whether it be sports or like entertainment, are people who mix those genres, right? Like I think Ringer and Deadspin and Grantland, back when it still existed, all did great writing because they would blur like and merge them all together. Where it is like you find an article like who are the 25 greatest like point guards from like 1985 in the NBA on Grantland, and then right next to it be like, all right, and now we're gonna rank every Eddie Murphy movie ever made, and it's like those could both exist in the site, and that made that site so cool, right? And like we're recording this podcast as like basically all of Deadspin's staff has like quit and protest and everything else like that, but like that is a site that did really cool, unique, clever content because it is a mixture of entertainment and sports and like real world events all kind of smashing together, and it led to really unique and eclectic, I think, pieces of media and writing. And I think that certainly that's the way that I write, right? Like, I mean, like, the amount of times I talk about non-gaming things in my gaming written features is almost all the time, right? Like, again, like, I very much, like, whether it's me talking about a Rocket League match, but in reality talking about way more than that Rocket League match and, like, barely mentioning the actual video game itself, like, I think when you can acknowledge the passion people have that are very different and kind of eclectic, that allows for stronger writing and content and everything else, right? Like, I think if you allow yourself and encourage yourself to have lots of different passions, it just makes all those passions more like deep and more thoughtful, I think, right? And it's like the people who are like, you know what makes you a better video games writer? Just reading all kinds of writing. Where just reading novels and reading books and reading like TV shows and like scripts and movie scripts and just like, reading about everything will make you a stronger writer in every way. And it also just happen to make you a better writer about video games as well. Like it'll just make you better at everything. And like, you know what makes you a better podcaster about anime or drinking or nostalgia or theater is also talking and having passions and having conversations about things that are outside of that wheelhouse, because then it'll allow you to kind of have a better understanding of the themes and influences that had an impact on the actual topic that you're talking about and discussing, right? Where it's like nothing is made in a vacuum, right? Like The Last of Us is heavily influenced by like Cormac McCarthy and like 1960s like apocalyptic storytelling and things that came before it, right? And like movies are influenced by like novels so much, and novels are influenced by like word spoken stories from like the past, right? And like everything is a parody and like an homage basically to the Odyssey and the Iliad, and like we are all people who are influenced by the things that came before us across lots of different mediums. And I think embracing that is the best thing to make all of us better at actually having conversations that are thoughtful and I think well informed and exciting to be a part of it, not ones that are just like internet flame wars that just instantly being like, you're dumb because this is why I think that. And it's like, all right, but like I think that's less exciting than having an actual conversation about like why this thing is good or bad, or maybe why I like it but you don't like it, and also like encouraging both those perspectives.
Well, yeah, but I didn't have any more characters because this was a tweet.
Exactly.
And that's all I could get out.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and so we should maybe go beyond that kind of mindset and thinking and be like, well, let's have an actual like really cool, like more than just surface level conversation. Get like beyond surface level thinking in terms of just like video games and movies and drinking and theater and everything that's in general and sports.
With all that said, keep an eye out for my article. All NHL teams as lipsticks that I own.
Ooh, I like that.
It's coming soon.
I would actually really like to read this.
Nice.
You should see my lipstick collection and also
It's
my hockey
intense,
knowledge.
yeah.
So there you go.
I believe that.
Frank.
Frank, yeah.
Yeah, you know, personally for me, the first thing that always comes to mind when you talk about like what are you nerdy about, what are you passionate about, is gaming. I probably don't have too much more to say on it than what a lot have already been said, but it is definitely one of those things I feel like if you're like, what are you like the most knowledgeable about personally, it's definitely like gaming. I'm like 20 years in at this point pretty much, and I just can't, because it's not even just time spent gaming. It's like, and I'm reading these articles, and I'm watching this video about fucking Altered Beast on the Genesis and why they launched for that and not Sonic the Hedgehog. And then Sonic came out and revolutionized everything. I don't know, like, that's definitely the thing I feel like I'm the most passionate about. But that's why I kind of like thinking about the other things, because it's like kind of like what Logan was talking about too. Is it's not just one thing that like personally defines you, even though I feel like for a long time I always thought of it that way.
Yeah.
But I try to think about some of these other things that I really do like, and like one of the things that comes to mind is like, I don't know if I necessarily want to make like content around it, but I do really love music. I don't talk about this
That's a great
outwardly a
one.
lot.
This is the perfect city.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's also why I do love Austin though. Like I love living here because I go to live shows like every week, every 2 weeks.
see
Like,
the
I go
IG stories.
constantly. Yeah, man.
And I'm like, where's the invite?
Oh yeah, I'll hit you up. That's it. Off air. Yeah, but like that's one of those things I do really love, and I love going to live shows and just listening to music in general. I probably listen to like hours a day, really, like at work, in the car, whatever. Like I'm always listening to music. Like some of my records are over there. Like I even have video game soundtracks. Again, now we're crossing over into the things we love. Like that's definitely one of those things. And the other thing that kind of comes to mind, honestly, a lot beyond drinking. I'm not well educated in it, but I definitely have a lot of firsthand experience. But yeah, like the movies, and also I would even almost expand that into just like video production. Like this is one of those things I feel like I am very just passionate about it in general. I'm not at the level I really necessarily want to be, but it's one of those things that I'm constantly working towards and climbing towards, and I'm constantly working on videos. I'm thinking about that kind of thing. I'm getting new equipment, and honestly, I'm like watching videos about being better at making videos. Like people are talking about like tips and tricks and knowledge, and but the thing is like when I was first getting into gaming, that was what I was doing. Is I was like, I want to hear people talk about it. Because I feel like when we get into the like, what are you nerdy about? I feel like that's what's nerdy, is you're going as deep almost as you possibly can into it, right? And so I feel like that's one of those things is I'm like, I want to know everything I can about this. And like, like with jazz, with hockey and like everything like that, or with you with theaters, it's like I have this whole knowledge base and I'm constantly, that's the newest thing I've been impassioned about in the more recent years. And I just want to keep getting better and learning more about that. And that's another thing, as we've all kind of talked about, why I'm really excited about the site and kind of being in group with everybody.
Yeah.
I also don't really want to get too sappy, but this is kind of probably one of the last moments I'll have to say it. But like, I am really happy to be a part of the site and be here with everybody. I've worked in groups in the past with people, but I feel like we're all very impassioned. I feel like this is a different vibe. And I feel like for me, like personally, like I've had, like I said, I've worked in groups in the past, but I feel like this is a different vibe with everybody being so impassioned and kind of like we talked about these eclectic, like different interests and being able to like fill out the ranks of it's not just all on one person, but it's everybody, and it's a big like collaborative effort. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing.
Nice.
Christian,
bring us home.
What are you nerdy about?
Man,
One of the things that I put originally when I had like your stand-in bio.
Oh, okay.
That did not make the cut based off what you sent me was ramen. And I was
Oh,
sad.
hell yeah.
I was
Absolutely,
sad
yeah.
when you cut ramen from the list, but
I'm nerdy
Did
about.
you have stand-in bios for all of us?
oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
I had placeholders until anybody sent me anything.
Ramen / food, cuisine, just in general. I love food. I'm a big guy.
Hell yeah.
I like to eat,
Hell yeah.
and when y'all mentioned y'all were talking about maybe doing food and drink content, it's like, yeah,
You know you can be in on that.
yeah. I'm definitely. I love food. Like one of my pipe dreams is to open up my own like little gyoza truck, and like because I love trying different recipes, and I like making gyozas by hand, and it's really therapeutic, and I think Austin would be a cool place for that. So I have these pipe dreams of like maybe opening up not even a restaurant, but like a little stand or food truck or something.
All right,
like
new
that.
Patreon goal.
That's awesome, dude.
That
Fuck
gyoza truck.
Yeah.
I like put that in your back pocket. You
Yeah.
write that down.
And you ramen probably stuck out to you because like on my Instagram I used to post a lot of like ramen recipes that I would try at home. And
Also
things like
because
that.
we've mainly only eaten at ramen restaurants in town. Whenever we meet you guys, which is usually ramen.
Yeah, we like to get together with ramen. Yeah. Outside of food, the big ones a lot of people know me for are, like film. I'm interested in being a filmmaker and being a producer and being a storyteller, and so I'm really excited that I get to tune into the voice of the wannabe film class, and I love anime. I'm really excited to share that passion with everybody through not only my own talking over the airwaves, but in, like I said, bringing in other voices to talk with me and to share this love, with other people. And kind of going off of what Frank said, production's been a big thing that I've been wanting to learn more about. I'm very fortunate that to have the experience that I've had and have the skills over the year, but like I'm not done growing. Like every week I'm still learning new things, and I can't wait to keep growing. But not only that, but to share that with everyone else in that group. Like I'm more than happy to share my knowledge of editing and shooting with the crew. But even it would be cool. Who knows how soon we could get to it, but it would be cool to have even a playlist of like how-tos for anyone out there that wants to learn about getting the lights and set up like this, talking about the kind of recorders that we'd use. That way, not only like fans, but just random people could stumble across our content, and that might give them like the extra push they need to make their own shows and things like that. So.
Oh, I've been Googling so many. How do I set up a stream? Videos in the last couple weeks. One of the another one of the weird pie in the sky collaborative opportunities that I think we have out there. I don't know if we'll have the time or resources right now to execute on it, but you have a very in-depth interest in filmmaking. Ben, one of our other collaborators, is just graduated with a degree in screenwriting, and so like even going back at PAX West, I had this idea of like. Ben writing something that we could all like work on and do independently in our various different areas, but get like edited together and figure out if that's a viable kind of content. Like he writes effectively what I would think of like as a 10-minute play or something, or like a short video that like we can't. There's no way we can all be like working on it together, but we can record it. Like he can send out a script and like each of us records a quick little thing of our segment of it, and it gets all edited together and see if that's something we could do despite the fact that we live in 4 different cities. If there's a possibility out there for that, that based on like the skill sets we have, it's something we could at least try and do. Maybe, if people are interested in it. So yeah, I love, again, going back to that idea of collaboration. The opportunities are seemingly endless, and there are only 8 of us right now. Obviously they're not, because that would kill us all. But I'm very excited for kind of all of the potential out there. The ones we've already discussed and explored, and the ones that are like the pipe dreams. And when we do come together and try and figure out, okay, we're entering year 2. What are the new big projects we want to try and tackle this year? 2.0, all that stuff. Kind of again following in the footsteps of the Kind of Funnies of the world, or the What's Good Games of the world, that do kind of make a big, hey, anniversaries are a big turning point. Let's identify and look at what the future of this project is, and we're 3 days in right now. So yeah, we've got certainly a fun year ahead of us, and beyond. So well, thank you all for sharing what you're nerdy for, and all of our origin stories and stuff. Obviously I knew many of these things, as I said on last week's episode as well, but I think it's a fun opportunity to introduce a new audiences to us. Obviously we're all gonna have maybe some segments of our own independent audiences that are coming to us but don't know everybody else at the table. So getting to share and introduce right out the gate, here's who we are, I think was a good way to start out this project for everybody. So with that, I think that wraps up episode 2 here. Thank you again all for joining me. So let us go around the table with anything anybody wants to plug. Twitter's, any ideas that are percolating or might be up at the site by the time this posts sometime in the next week and a half. So Logan, how about you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat filters, the TikToks, Vine.
Show me a TikTok you
WordPress, whatever you got, at LaFilogi. On the site right now, by the time you listen to this, you can hear the first episode of That Video Game List Show. You can hear the first episode of That Wannabe Film Class. By the time this goes live, if we're going to have it go live next Monday, I will have a piece on the site, kind of my own welcome to thing like Trevor had for himself, as well, about kind of just everything. And then possibly reviews of a game or a movie or just whatever, as well, that I'll be working on. And then also just being excited about all the different projects that we've all got happening. I would say that would be my thing.
Great.
Jazz, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at jazz_Foster. That's mostly a lot of bullshit, but I'm on there. Also, Instagram and Snapchat is just at Jazz Foster. Also bullshit, but this time with my cat. Because it's photos. Look out for my speakeasy, Behind the Bookcase. That'll be on the site, with reviews of whatever comes to mind alcohol related. Maybe you'll get some secret cocktail recipes, if you can find the link. Beyond that, whatever comes to mind. Logan and I had a podcast idea that maybe we're gonna spring over to here. Yeah, and I'll be popping around. I have a video game piece even, maybe. We'll see where that goes. Good. Guys, I have played a video game. Thank you. Literally just the one, but I did play it and I did like it, so maybe you'll see that on the website as well.
Frank, where can they find you?
I am on every platform at Irrelevant Jokes. And the main thing I really just have to plug at the moment is just kind of the site. So, I mean, I know a lot of it, we've already talked about a lot, but check out the site, the Patreon. In the coming weeks, by the time that this is up, that you could probably check out, I would say go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. That's one of the things, at least here in the meantime, I'm going to be putting some work in on like the podcast or the Let's Plays or whatever, stream archives. Trevor and I have been talking about that, and I think we'll be able to do some good work on that here by the time this goes live.
And again, this is Christian. You can find me on all social media as PixelBrave. I'm most often on Twitter, but Instagram's fun too. PSN, I don't usually play online, but this has been a good weekend to get out of my comfort zone. I've learned to, you know what? It is fun playing with people. It's fun playing video games.
Video games are alright, guys.
Jazz,
Breaking news.
Jazz, you're mentioning games, and like I've played more games in the last 3 days than I have probably in the last 3 years.
Bro,
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
as fuck. I
Yeah.
haven't played a video game since I was like 13.
Yeah. So yeah, you can find me all there. And if you're not familiar with me, a lot of my work is on my online portfolio. You can find at www.pixelbrave.video. Yeah.
Nice.
Great. You can find me at Trevor J. Starkey on the on all the social medias, formerly Snarky Starkey, but I managed to kind of rebrand from that a few months back, and it's been wonderful. As for the site, the main thing I'll plug will be the welcome to That Nerdy Site piece that I wrote to kind of coincide with the launch. That much like the ideas behind this show goes into kind of the origins of That Nerdy Site and everything that kind of led us to this point. Again, kind of bringing everybody together, really putting in the effort to make all of that happen. You can follow all of us at That Nerdy Site and check out, as has been said, thatnerdysite.com for the latest content. You can check out twitch.tv/thatnerdysite for weekly streams. By the time you hear this, we will almost assuredly be Twitch affiliates and everything. Mm-hmm. If you've liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, and subscribe, and maybe even consider, as has been mentioned again, supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. As I alluded to earlier, we've reached our first goal for the anime podcast.
Very happy about that.
The next one we have up in the docket, if we can get to $100 per month, is That Wrestling Show, which, again, going to the idea of things that people don't think of necessarily as nerdy. Wrestling is a very nerdy and passionate community, and Cameron Abbott and I are two members of that, so we will kind of reignite our nerdy passion for it and discuss all that stuff. We can hit that goal. And one of the perks of being a patron for us is every patron gets early access to a monthly bonus episode of this show.
Yep.
We'll basically record a bonus episode every month, and patrons get it 1 month before we release it to the general public. Mm-hmm. So thank you all again for joining me.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And as always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.
And so can you.
Plus Ultra!